Don't you know Arctic apples could be potentially harmful to Darcy's health? You should be feeding him cruelty-free, organic, non-GMO dog food. GMOs are totally cool. As a matter of fact, today, there are a wide variety of foods that are harvested in multitude that are consumed by people and by our friend Darcy here. Okay, so we really hope you enjoyed the video of the Labradoodle Darcy. So, to start off, the term genetically modified organisms normally carries a bad connotation amongst those who are conscious about the foods that they consume. However, there are many common misconceptions about what is and isn't genetically modified, whether or not those foods that are genetically engineered have a negative impact on our health and well-being. Phrases like GMOs, genetic engineering, and biotechnology carry similar and popular misconceptions about them, which include but not limited to GMOs are inherently bad for your health and can cause cancer. Actually, according to the National Academics of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, there is no evidence indicating that food containing GMOs pose a risk to our health. B. Food with GMOs contain fewer nutrients. One goal of genetic engineering is to reduce the needs of insecticides near crops and reducing inorganic substances near harvested lands. Modifications to crops that limit the use of insecticides and increase harvest yield do not modify the nutritional value of the vegetable or fruit. Genetically modifying food is a new kind of science. So not surprisingly, humans have tinkered with crossbreeding of plants and animals to obtain desired traits since the dawn of agriculture, according to the Scientific American. In genetics, this is called artificial selection. According to the Museum of Natural History, artificial selection over the centuries has increased crop yields and created foods that are bigger, more resistant to pests and disease, and are tastier. Okay, so before we begin to talk about animals and GMOs, I'd like to apologize for these mice and how poorly drawn they are. So genetically modified animals are just one of the categories of genetically modified organisms that are being researched and used in the field of science for things such as sustainable agriculture and disease prevention. Most of the gene modification that is involved in the usage of animals leans towards placing new genes into their genomes in order to express them during development. There are a number of methods of obtaining this type of genomic modifications, and the most popular are somatic cell nuclear transfer or performing microinjections directly into the pronuclei of oocytes. Okay, so I hope you can kind of understand the diagram of these mice. So we have a fertilized egg that undergoes microinjection of foreign DNA into the pronucleus. This is implanted into a pseudopregnant mouse that results in offspring with the desired characteristics and contain that inserted gene from the original parents. So moving forward, what I've drawn is a transposon, which shows the transposon and the plasmid. So this process has been recently modified to include transposons, specifically talking about microinjections, which carry the transgene into genome and insert a rigorously defined sequence into a genome with much higher efficiency than occurs by random recombination. This process therefore is more exact in putting the transgene in and modifying the genome, and is less of a process of luck than is random recombination in millions of eggs and hoping for the best, as you would see in fish. So this process of microinjecting plasmids directly into eggs is more often seen in fish because they produce a higher number of eggs in comparison to other organisms such as the mice. Therefore, there is a higher chance of random recombination occurring as a matter of the ability to inject hundreds of fertilized embryos per hour, and subsequent generations will begin to express the transgenic DNA in higher frequencies. However, this process is only somewhat reliable in fish due to their number of eggs and is not used in other animals with smaller reproduction rates. Examples of genetically modified animals include cattle being modified for more purified milk production and disease resistance, and piglets being modified for piglet survival, muscle mass development, flu resistance, meat composition, and growth rate. One of the biggest problems with transgenic DNA in animals is the factor of controlling expression of this new gene. This must be done by matching the appropriate gene promoter with the transgenic gene, creating a system called an expression cassette or mixtape in which the gene is reliably expressed over generations. Okay, so bacteria will be our last portion on the GMO presentation. Bacteria have also been genetically modified as they allow a cheap way to mass produce pure products. Bacteria are generally modified using recombinant DNA technology. This process is carried out by obtaining a desired DNA sequence, splicing it into plasmids, and then inserting the plasmid into a host organism such as E. coli. The host organism can now produce the protein encoded by this DNA sequence. The diagram that you'll see now shows how recombinant DNA technology is used to produce insulin with bacteria. If you'd like, please press pause to examine the photo. So further concerning bacteria, GM microbes are being used to produce a wide variety of drugs, hormones, and other products for the medical market. This includes vaccines, which provide immunity against viruses, human growth hormone, HGH, which is important for human development, and interferons, a protein that stimulates the immune system, and much more. GM microbes are also used to make food additives like vitamins, amino acids, and food preservatives. They are also used to make enzymes that are used to make cheese, bread, certain alcohols, and some sugars. Recently, even more bacteria have been created with a variety of uses. These uses include bacteria can be used to detect the amount of arsenic in water. They can break down hazardous chemicals like mercury. They can make a stronger, lighter weight silk, and they can absorb fat molecules and excrete diesel fuel. So this concludes our video presentation on genetically modified organisms for genetics. We'd like to thank you very much for viewing, and we hope you enjoyed. Thank you.